Hey everybody, it's me, Saint Peter the Apostle. I wanted to talk to you about how I got canceled out of heaven. Okay, I know it's been a while and you're probably like, literally, who are you? But um, I assure you that this is part of the punishment that I have received. So, anyway, I figured I'd do it on a day like today, Easter, in which there is. It's I gotta let my homie, that's what you call him. No, no, okay. I gotta let my bro, Jesus, know all about how I kind of felt about being canceled. I picked today. I finally decided to get my thoughts together as best as I can. So, I'll just start off by saying, uh, heaven is really fucking boring. By the way, there is nothing to do. So, other than maybe just talk to all the people in there, which I'll get to. It's not that bad. That's actually the least boring thing. You can kind of talk about how life used to be. Um, it kind of started like it like and years go by like minutes, and it's so weird how that works because there's like it's always really bright. You're always in this cloudy area, but it's outside of time. That's the weirdest thing. But that's sort of how it works, but it's like a different dimension, but not really. You can kind of see things happening, and you're just not able to do much about it. And you're up there with God, his son, his mom, and everybody else, really. So, and and you definitely get to eat when I guess it's permissible. Uh, and it was one of those days where we got to eat, and there was like some like really poorly baked bread. I like little bread chips things. The bread that you would usually get back in Israel. Plus, you would get like maybe some grapes and some fruits if you're lucky. But I wasn't really hungry that day anyway. You don't get hungry in heaven, but it's just another thing you can kind of do. It's sort of treated like a little social activity. So I'm up there with the rest of the apostles and Jesus, and I'm with some of the other people that managed to get really lucky and be there. Uh, so we're all just having a nice little chat, and Jesus is talking to people. It's so weird to call him Jesus. It's usually Yeshua. It's Yeshua. Like, it's really that easy, but it's actually even easier than Jesus. For me anyway. Really weird stuff. But to be very clear about something, I, uh, Jesus is. It's all about Jesus. You're just sort of like a side piece for everybody else to kind of look at and be like, oh, and he did this, and it's all because of how Jesus was able to meet him and all this stuff. I was the whipping boy in every single situation. They're like, oh, Peter didn't believe. He didn't believe that he could walk on water if he just believed hard enough. I was just like, well, yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to see how he was, that one time Jesus was walking on water. I'm like, Master, we had to call him Master. Master, yes. Well, how are you doing this? He's just like, I'll just show you. Just take my hand, and and then we'll just walk on the water. I start fucking sinking in because I was just and because I'm like, is this really happening? Like, is he really doing this? Or is he just doing that thing like that, the evangelicals do where they say, like, oh, use me like a cane. And they're like, I can make you walk again. And they're like just using themselves as a cane. That thought was going through my head. That's why I started thinking clearly. Why didn't you believe? And all the other stuff, like, oh, you used to run a bank. We'll get to why that was so funny to them. And Jesus is talking, and then he's like, he's talking and he's talking and he's talking and he's talking, and then like about how we should forgive everybody, be nice, and lo and behold, is one of the few times he mentions me in passing. He says like, and then he says something along the lines of, "I'm sure Peter has something to say about that. Saint Peter has something to say about this one." Pretty, and then the whole room kind of chuckles a little bit, and I'm like, "Well, actually, I do." Because I kind of decided to be more of a dad joke comedian up in heaven, and start wordsmithing and making some funny little one liners so that we can I don't know, at least do something else other than sit and look at the cloud thing, and then and how helpless we are to stop anything that's happening on the earth, and just and not ask any questions about where all this shit is coming from, and if there's anything else we could do that may be fun for some reason. Like there's no way you can have fun in heaven. I mean, you can definitely watch, you can eat, you can be comfortable, and you can even I guess talk to people. And one of the loopholes I found was jokes. So okay, I I get called up. I said, and then I'm like, you know what? I actually do, cause and then I start saying like, look, I know you guys think I'm not really a big believer. All right, I know, but I believe now. Trust me, I believe that all this is real, and Jesus did all this magic, not magic, these miracles, and all these magic, and I kind of like do that. Then that's the delivery. I know it's because you can't, God forbid you start lying and saying it's magic what he did, because there's a big difference. But I was just like, yes, I believe in all the magic tricks that were endorsed by God, and that kind of got the room to like so I was already, by comparison to like what Jesus was saying, I was fucking killing it. So okay, now uh this is where the joke that got me canceled. I'm just having a good old time. I'm having a little bit of a laugh where I'm eating some grapes, and I say, and just like God said, uh, you know, Jesus, my main man, I love you to death, but I just gotta say, it's just like you said. You were a subversive communist in the Roman Empire, and the Romans did nothing wrong. And I kind of bow out of the room and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And a few people kind of like giggled. This guy called Karl Marx was kind of like, and he actually kind of let out a giggle. Everyone else, dead quiet. Everyone else, I swear it's true. Um, little awkward. And there's like, Jesus is like, Lee looks at me like, okay. And we'll get to the, and that, I added that guy prior to the Jesus for a reason. You can kind of see where this is going. He pulls me aside after, we have our, I guess, forever supper, you call it. And I took a little bit of wine with me, just, and I decided to get the hell out of Dodge. And Jesus, Yeshua of Nazareth, he pulls me aside. He says, I'm like, buddy, I'm right here. What? Everyone knows what we're saying. It's heaven. No secrets here. That's bad. But he's just like, you, me, we need to talk. I'm like, but I'm right here. He's just like, haha, funny. I meant in private. Okay. Uh, Side note, I missed my long hair like I had in Israel. Like, holy crap, I loved that. But, Anyway, he says, What the fuck was that? I was just like, it was a joke. Just it didn't land. It's okay. Doesn't happen all the time. You know, I have my stinkers. I mean, I'm getting started here in the comedy world in heaven, you know. And, you know, to be fair, there's not a whole lot of competition. Then he says to me, you can't keep telling people the fucking truth like that. This is where I start thinking to myself, like in the back of my head immediately, like, did I accidentally say something that was true through a joke? How does that work? Like, how does one accidentally say the truth? What this fucking thing? How does one accidentally say the truth? I asked him very curtly because I was just like, because it was a joke. Like I was trying to have fun here. And he still looks at me like, you really don't get it, do you? I'm like, get what? I mean, you clearly got my joke, right? I mean, we're good. Like it was a joke. I didn't mean to hurt your fifis. I mean, Carl liked it. He really liked that joke. He at least blew a little bit of air out of his nose. He's just like, okay, let's go with that. You had one little giggle. Off you go now. Just don't say that again. No more jokes, okay? And I'm just sat there like, no more jokes. You mean I can't, you know, have a funny? Like, what else is there to do around here? Like, come on. Like, I'm sure you'll forgive me for that. It's just like, I do, but there's a consequence. I forgive you, but I have to employ a consequence, you see. All right. Uh, so, and that consequence is, thou shalt not make jokes. That's going to be hard. Okay. So that's when things got boring again. And a couple, I guess you could say days, kind of hard to say that they're days if, you know, time doesn't exist and you're just there. And you don't age, you don't do anything, you're just sort of there in stasis as, like, I guess, yourself. And it's a little nice, like, you can kind of be whatever you want, but you know, or at least or at any point in your life that you want, you can be a baby, you can be yourself in your 40s, your 30s, your whatever that range is. You could be a kid, a toddler, even you could be super old. You basically, it's like, you know, it's like you import your looks like into a computer. You know, those were fun to learn about, by the way, and learn how to use. Um, so naturally, I'm thinking to myself, well, now I have to find something else to occupy my time. Okay, how do I do that? I mean, can I like burp into a microphone, or is that technically a joke? That we can have things up there, like, or burp into like one of those big horns, or make farts. Can we do that? I kind of keep asking some like clarifying questions because I'm obviously kind of perturbed by the fact that we can't make jokes. They're just like, we're working on it. Working on what? No jokes. Like, can we laugh? It's just like, we're working on that. And you know, I'm still trying to hash out like new things to like Can I pull pranks? They're like, absolutely not. No, that's a form of lying, you see. Peter, I thought you knew better. I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do to have fun? I mean, now no one can make fun of me, right? Like, that's a joke. And it was and then maybe a few more days pass by. It is boring as fuck. It feels good to swear again, by the way. It is fucking boring. Most boring shit I've ever experienced in my life. Or afterlife, rather. Ugh. Anyway, finally, I just decided to sack up and then talk to Jesus' dad, Jehovah himself. Or Yahweh. He goes, that's what we called him. Or Jehovah, that's the other one. There's, the other Greek one that you say. Deus. Who cares? It's, who I'm talking about. It's the same God that we all seem to believe in for some reason. And I just decide to, do the whole entire Lord's Prayer about 3 times. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. But I was saying it in Hebrew this time to make sure that he could really hear me. And then I say, are we allowed to make jokes again? Or is that off the table? And secondly, my only other question is, what did your son mean by you can't tell people the truth? I get a reply. Essentially, he chews me out. He says, you stupid motherfucker. I cannot believe you fucking said that in front of everyone. I'm like, did God just swear? I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought you were supposed to like be like, a little bit more. I was like, no, fuck you. You told them the truth. And I was still sat there, I guess. I'm like, what is the truth? That was my second question. Okay? No one is giving me a clear answer. And I certainly can't ask other people because apparently they're being, lied to by proxy, or, at least omitting that truth entirely from our conversations. It's just a thing we couldn't talk about. And of course, and then I say, okay, but what is the truth? He scans my brain, obviously. He knows what I'm thinking. And I'm just like, he says to me, you know the truth about what we do at this point. You have all the information you need. You and Carl are the only people that know, and maybe Stalin, and maybe Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and maybe Ronald Reagan. Okay? You're the only you're the only set of people in heaven that know the truth. And I'm now, shut up. No more jokes, no more questions out of you. Those are 2 things that you can't do anymore. And I'm like, no more questions? Are you kidding me? That was a question. And then he just gets he was mad. He was pissed. I was just like, I'm like, what's going on? Oh, wait, that's a question. Then about after like 3 hours, I'm just like sat here racking my brain. I'm like, so, okay, I can't make jokes. I cannot ask questions. I am just allowed to sit mindlessly droning here and to do nothing. Got it. Okay, that's fucking fair. And you know, and then I'm sitting here just bored out of my frickin' mind. And then, subconsciously, a question goes into my mind. I'm like, so what do I do for fun now? And Jesus puts his hand on my shoulder like this. He's just like, you just asked a question, didn't you? I'm like, to myself? I mean, is that okay? Can I think? He's just like, you talk to my dad. We're we I don't think you're the right fit for this place anymore. And I'm like, what? I mean, clearly, but like, I thought I had like at least the fool's privilege at this point. Now I make one little, hurt your fifis and I'm out. He's just like, yeah. But you didn't hurt my feelings, though. I already forgave you, remember? I'm like, yeah, well. So they say, and he was serious. I was just like, then, so what do I do then? Like, oh, wait, that was the question. And he's just like, yeah. It's not that, you know, there's no more questions or jokes allowed in heaven. It was meant that you don't ask any more questions and make any jokes. That's who it was really for. And it really only applies to you. Because you've been kind of pissing me off lately. And I should have known better since we met, right? And he goes on, he's recapping basically my life story when I was in Israel. And he's saying to me, and a lot of things, he's just like, look, and he brought up the whole walking on water incident where I didn't believe hard enough. He's just like, that's just not a good look. And I'm like, listen, buddy, that was when I first met you. And, we were fishing, okay? Of course I'm going to ask you how the fuck you did that. And second, how long have I been pissing you off? In which only up until now you're like, I gotta kick you out. How long have I been doing this exactly? And he's just saying like, and like, can you? And then I finally just say, can you at least explain what the truth is? He finally fucking says it. He's just like, you know how you've been like, seeing what I do, right? Like, some of the people I've been, talking to recently. And, like Ronald Reagan and Karl Marx and Joseph Stalin, Martin Luther, obviously, and, Paul the Apostle. And I was just like, this is all over the place. He's just like, yeah, and, remember, like, Pope and all the popes, they all have one thing in common. They share my vision, and which is my dad's vision. It's very confusing when you're the son of God, but you're also a part of God. It's fucking weird. He's like, and I'm like, uh-huh. Like, I mean, and I'm kind of just like, Hitler had things in common with the popes? Like, really? And that other guy? And I they don't really have a ton. It's like, I mean, he's just like, well, that's what you're not getting. You see, uh, as a whole, he does this weird thing. And then there's like a little plant that pops up because, of course, he can. To show me a demonstration, he's like, you see, we really, 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 really want to have the planet be a good place. And they all share the same vision in which, like the, and you know, and then he adds another one. He's just like, well, and he's just like, okay, so are you familiar with the World Economic Forum? I'm like, no. What does that have to do with anything? Where is the connection? You're not getting there. He says to me, they understood one thing, and they have communicated this message to the proletariat that that the best future is where you own nothing and be happy. I'm sat there very, very perplexed by this. And I say, you realize that was a prediction, not like their actual vision, right? Like, that was what they thought would happen. And then I also have to explain to you because you were going to rent things from people and you would technically not own it. And the reason why you would be happy is because you're not responsible for it nearly as much as someone who owns the thing. You realize that, right? This is where he got real mad. He's just like, no. You see, we need to abolish and I thought you knew this when I took out all the traders and the money exchangers in the temple of Israel. You fucking idiot. This was the message. You don't need any of this crap. God will give it to you. Just how are we not clicking here? I'm like, because you also said that you should work hard. I thought that was clear. Like, you know, like God helps those who help themselves, right? That was a pretty clear message. And, you know, even those American people with, man, are they fucking dumb, but they get that. They're like, and you know, Jesus is sat here like, oh, okay. Listen, yes, I was looking to subvert the Roman Empire. Yes, they technically didn't do anything wrong because they were just following orders like good little fascists. But you know, the thing is, and then I'm like, okay, but so and then I'm just like, but what's the problem then? Like, it was a joke, obviously, and you know, so you just want people to just have nothing and just be super happy about it. Like, what about the people that are avaricious? They're partaking in a vice. He's still like, you just keep asking questions. Always the questions. You're always asking questions. I was just like, yes, I want to understand what's happening. This is what good friends do. We ask each other questions. We spitball ideas. I'm trying to be your friend and say, it was literally a joke. Like, and you're making this into a big deal. And I'm not getting it. And he's just sat there like, just, he's now doing the head point like, we're friends, huh? Yeah, we're friends. Okay, well, friends don't embarrass each other in public, man. And it was just like, friends don't act bougie, dude, like you. And I'm like, what are these words you're using? Because I recognize them from like a specific set of people. And this is the part where he's just like, I'm kicking you out of heaven because You just don't believe in the Christian revolution enough. And I'm like, the revolution, the Christian revolution. So it's like, I'm like, wouldn't that be kind of nice to know that that was something that you could just either A, talk about, or B, not talk about, or C, if that was even a thing? You can't kick me out because I didn't know a secret, asshole. He's just like, well, that's the way it's gonna be. Um, so here's the deal. Because you're very nice to me. We were at least kind of cool. I mean, I was like, yeah, I literally tried to save you from being crucified, you dickhead, and now you're gonna kick me out of heaven. I literally was crying when you were hanging up on that cross. You realize that, right? Like, I was literally just the guy that was asking for evidence, and I got the evidence, and I said, guys, there's evidence that this guy is the Messiah. I literally was that guy. And he's just like, but then I was pissed. And it was at this point, he's just like, for you, I'm going to offer you a chance of redemption. I'm going to send you back to Earth. And I'm like, okay, what in the world am I going to do there then? Could you tell me? He's like, I'm getting there, shut up. So, and I'm like, okay, fair enough, I will. I'm all ears. He then says, your chance of redemption is to live a normal American life and tell me what it's like. And also, while following all the tenets that I've set forth for you. So, and the reason I'm telling you this is, this is the way that we should live. We should live in accordance to only needing what we need from God. As I have said to Satan, the men only need the bread of God. And I'm like, yeah, we heard that story. And I'm sitting here very confused. I'm like, why can't I just do some community service and liberate people from hell? Isn't that like a bad place? Oh no, I made that up. You made up hell? Really? He's like, completely made up. Never existed. How do you think I got out? Well, then what happens to the people that don't get to heaven? Oh, well. Like, they're just gone, dude. But, jokes, well, putting that aside, I'm going to make sure now you have to go back to Earth and, be the spirit of the Christian revolution. I say, what? And I'm not allowed to know what it is. It's just like, well, you already have a good idea, don't you? I'm like, no, I don't. That's why I'm asking you. He then sits down. He says, he gets out the Bible, and then he gets out something called the Communist Manifesto. And then he then says to me, okay, this right here, he points at the Communist Manifesto. This is the fourth test. This is way better than the Revelations, baby. Way better. It gets you to absolve all materialism. It gets you to really overthrow all kings. The only thing that Carl got wrong was that religion was the opiate of the people, except for ours, of course. That's why he was a Lutheran. And then he goes off on this big rant about how there's evil capitalists and fascists and evil kings, and they're just subjugating people to get them to worship them instead. And he points to places like, this place called the United Kingdom that I didn't know about until like I came back here. Man, oh man, do you guys got it bad. And then he points to like a place called North Korea. And I'm like, hang on, aren't they also? They're like, no, that's not real communism. Shush, because they don't believe in us. I'm like, but you kind of get it. You said the truth after all. And I'm like, okay. So what you're trying to tell me is you're sending me to Earth, correct? To upend the all world government, create a dictatorship of the proletariat that just so happens to worship your dad in this place called America that hates communists. Is this your plan? He's just like, yes, because they like me. They like me. That's the reason why you're going there. Because this America place, they like me, but they hate every other communist, so it's good. And you get to do my bidding. And you get to make it really happen. And I'm sat here like, this is fucking batshit. Like, we're doing the same thing that they're doing. No, but that's not real Christian communism, you see. We need that to work. Like, ours actually works. I proved it. You saw it, right? And he's being a real dickhead now about this. I'm just like, okay, yes, but that's God. But doing tyrannical rule for your dad, just in having your dad be at the top, is still tyranny. They're not gonna go for it. And I was able to pull up this thing called Jonestown. And this guy that was just like, well, I'm a Christian, but I'm also a communist, and then they all drank some Kool-Aid and died. And it was probably one of the most harrowing things I've ever seen. I'm like, you realize that, are people going to be doing shit like that? And he's like, maybe. I'm like, maybe? What do you mean, maybe? He's just like, they might. I mean, could happen. And, this is the thing that's really weird about the place that's outside of time, is that even though time is constantly going forward, even though we're like frozen in a place and all the things kind of like that we see in time are meshed all together, there's still like things that happen in the future. There's still new things that we don't see. So anyway, I get told that I'm doing this. He's just like, all right, so what do you say? You want to go back to Earth? I'm like, and do all that for me? That'd be kind of cool. I mean, I'm doing this because, I'm giving you this chance of redemption because I'm your friend. And I'm just sat there like, you're bonkers. Like, this is still bad. Like, you want people to have nothing and be happy, not even clothes. You want to return it to Eden, but they know better. They have knowledge. They have lots of this knowledge stuff, to the point where they'll say, like, and I'm literally giving like some of the easiest examples in the world why Christianity is not that appealing anymore in the modern world that these people are now living in, especially these Americans that have tons of stuff. Like, see, I have this thing called like a washing machine, and I have also it actually speaks to this like black box. It's a phone apparently. I mean, I've seen phones, but now they're just black boxes. It's really cool. And, I can just press a button and boom, my laundry starts. And I get called by not my wife, but, a thing on my black box that says, hey, your laundry's done. And it's great. That's an easy case. Whereas on the other hand, Jesus would tell you, you got to pray for that. And if you even wanted that, if we even let you have clothes, and then it'll just poof, it'll be done by God. And I just sat there like, you're messing with me. You're messing with me. You are actually messing with me. You want me to upend, let's just say for what it is, this America places, you want me to upend an American empire somehow by literally suggesting that we just have to let God do things, even though they have all of the things that they could possibly want in the world and then some, to the point where they're just engaging in vices because they're bored and they don't need anything. And they don't have to work even that hard. They have these things called automobiles. I have one. It's pretty cool. You can go hundreds of miles within just a few hours, whereas it would easily take days for that to happen. Days! And you want me to say, forfeit your technology, forfeit your government, just worship God. He'll do everything for you. You sounded like that Satan guy when you two were talking on that big mountain. And he's just like, well, that's the thing. That's why I gotta have you do it. And I'm saying, why me then? Because it's just better when a human does it. And someone that gets them. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have you be born in the past. A place is some, point in time that already happened, and you're gonna grow up. And then I'm gonna give you all these thoughts that we had this conversation. You're gonna remember this when you're like a little bit more cognizant. And at first I was just kind of like, I was just like, this doesn't seem all that great. And, for all intents and purposes, my dad was correct. That's what Jesus was saying was commie babble. It's not the real way that God would want you to worship him. And so now I just grow up confused. And, my soul had to get imported into a boy. That's just how it works. Or how it worked. And I got to grow up with modern amenities. I forgot Hebrew. I just remember what it sounds like. But essentially now this is what happens. I got canceled from heaven for telling a joke, and my redemption path is to radicalize people into some stupid communist message, but it's enforced by God. It's stupid. I hate it. And, if this is going to be the way I go and there is no hell, I just go poof, gone, never come back, I don't get to go back to heaven, then you know what, I'll fucking take it. Because heaven is really, really boring. And I will say it for real this time, it is not a joke. Jesus, we were tight, we were really awesome, I liked our friendship. It was really nice when, growing up and then meeting you in Israel And then it kind of was shitty what happened. What, you got wrongfully persecuted, but the problem was, uh, at least that's what I thought at the time. But now I have gained wisdom. I gained wisdom on the topic now. And I've realized that really, that joke I told is exactly as you said. It was the truth. You were a dirty fucking communist who wanted to subvert the Roman Empire, and by God, did you get what you wanted? And at the time, the Romans did nothing wrong because they got what they wanted. You got what you wanted. You had Paul the Apostle go around, start subverting and then convincing Romans to join Christianity. You had the Roman emperors start doing the whole forgive your neighbors thing after God knows how much of persecuting Christians. And you just by talking to them enough, yeah, and then all of a sudden Rome was no more because I guess they were too nice. And even though, the Romans kind of kept Israel safe, I'm just saying. And they're doing a better job than the Americans right now. You see that? And or maybe not. I don't know. Hot take. I know. I don't really want to go back there. But but thank you, Jesus, for enlightening me and giving me true wisdom and not just knowledge this time around. Okay? That was cool of you. I understand that you're a leftist, and that's why Karl Marx was up in heaven. Somehow Hitler was up there because I guess you've read the word socialist in there, or a socialist party in his little moniker there, even though he killed billions of people. Millions and millions of people, by the way. Stalin, same thing. Don't even get me started on Woodrow Wilson and the rest of the American presidents. Don't even get me started on just anyone who held a government position, really. Just it was harrowing to go through this journey back to the earth and then finally get a good dose of, maybe this heaven place, this is the real bad place, like the Good Place show, funny stuff. But that's what it kind of felt like to me. So I don't want to go back to heaven, Jesus. I would rather just disappear into the aether, and I would rather just not exist anymore. And if you're going to invent hell just for me, well, all you have to do is ring me back into heaven. Sure know how to torture me. Make the world really, really boring, and make sure I can't ask questions. That's all I got to say about that. But, and, happy Easter, bro. Hope it was worth it.